Welcome back to another session. I hope you were well. Um, in the past four sessions, especially this week, I have um, I have covered different things with regards to how to take charge of your life and how to recognize the power that you hold in choosing, the power of choice. But I've talked about different things, about how other influences around you could be affecting your your state of being, your mental health and your physical health and your level of wellness and happiness and self-concept. As I end this week, I want to talk about how the process of change might seem very daunting, um, but it is worth it. Uh, I've been talking about your thoughts and how your thoughts are powerful and how your thoughts are influenced by other things around you, within you, and therefore you have to stand guard every day and choose the right thoughts. I've also talked about how depression is self-inflicted and, even more importantly, how depression and any form of anxiety can be self-healed. If it's a self-inflicted, it means that the power is within you. Now, in today's session, as I talk about how it doesn't have to be as hard as you seem or think, let me start as follows. Um, in order to make a change in life, whatever you might want from life, there is a requirement for you to start off with a worldview, a philosophy of life. That philosophy of life might be a principle. It could be an idea. It could be a set of principles that come to you in whatever form that you choose or you accept. But you have to start with a worldview. I like to use this analogy, which is, you have two men in a prison, and two men look out from the prison cell, and one of them can only see the prison bars that is restricting him from his freedom. But the other, standing next to him or sat next to him, looks out and he looks through the same window, and what he sees is a beautiful sunset out there in the distance. Same opening, two different perspectives. The reason for that is because we see life through a lens. And for most of us, sometimes it's not necessarily that we have the bad and wrong thoughts or that we have the right thoughts. It's that the prism and the lens through which we see life is dirty, is tainted, is faulty, is wrong. And therefore, until we change that lens, we can't change what we see. Now, the interesting thing is that even if some help was sent to those two men, there are two steps that must take place, or rather one step and one acceptance, is that they have to accept that they are in a prison, because you can't escape from a prison except you first acknowledge that you are in a prison. Step one is always see things as they are, not the way you wish that they could be, not the way you hope that they could be, but as they are. And the people who suffer from depression tend to fall into two camps: those who see things as they are, and that's all they would ever see. They don't believe that there is hope out there, and they think this is part of my identity because they have accepted that identity. And there's another group of people who, for whatever reason, I don't put a judgment on this, they do not believe that there's anything either wrong with their circumstances, and therefore you can't help them. So with the first step process is you have to accept that you are in a prison. That's the first step. Acceptance. You must take the first step of acceptance, because you can't transcend your position except you accept. Now the second step is to see things better than you would want them to be. And that means you have an idea, a destination, a goal. And then the third step is to move in that direction. But we tend to find that if you are in a prison, which is what depression is as far as I'm concerned, you are in a prison. It's not a desired prison for anyone. But if you don't accept that you are in prison, then you can't escape. Now, what is sad is some people will not participate in their own rescue when help comes. So there are people who have come across content and information a diverse set of ideas. And part of the reason I have tried to share, I think today's session so far is session number 43 or 44, I think 44 in a series. Now, why would I share 44 sessions? Now, it's not the end of the session, by the way. So by the end of perhaps the entirety of this, perhaps there might be more than 44, much more than 44, who knows? But the point being, why would I share 44 separate sessions of the same topic? The reason is because I like to give you a buffet of ideas. And you don't have to accept all of it. And you take some from me and you take some from someone else. And the key thing is not to just let go of good ideas or new ideas. You contend with the ideas, you wrestle with the ideas, and then you decide whether the ideas are for you. And if they are not for you at that time, you file them away. Because in my life, I have found that as part of my process, and this is perhaps something I should say with more grace, never attempt to change someone or help someone who is not willing for said changes. Sometimes we are not ready, by choice or whatever, and therefore never attempt to change someone who is not ready. And the key triggering mechanism is desire. And so when I interact with people, in the past I would listen very attentively to a voice of pain, to where there was pain or suffering, and I would attempt to provide a solution so that the pain and suffering could be alleviated. And then over many years I realized that you can't change people, but people can change themselves. And then I also then realized that people just do not resist change in itself, but they resist being changed. So there's a dance that one has to play about trying to tell people and teach people and convince people that the idea that can give them abundance in life has originated from them, so that they can accept it. The human mind is a fascinating thing, and the human being is very fascinating. Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem at the same level as the thinking that created the problem. So you have to transcend your position and go to a higher level to solve a lower problem. And there are people who are stuck at the lower level, but they will not accept a higher ideal when it comes, either because they lack the desire or they just reject being changed. So in the whole process of personal development, one of the things a teacher has to do is provide the idea and say, you can take it, you can leave it. Don't reject it immediately. Put it aside. You might need it when the desire comes. Or the second way, which is what one-to-one coaching will do, is the coach tries, or the teacher, psychiatrist, tries to convince you in a fascinating intellectual, mental mindset shift process that the idea is yours. So they plant the seed and they let the seed gestate to the point where you choose and believe that the seed is yours, and therefore you're more likely to accept it. Because if you think of that idea as coming from without, you'll reject it. Your subconscious will reject it immediately. But if you think the idea has come from you, you're more likely to be tolerant of it, and suddenly there's change. In any case, if you don't see yourself as being in a prison, which is what I think of depression, you can't change yourself. You will keep suffering without purpose or meaning. Secondly, if you do not participate in a rescue operation, if you give up halfway through, you become akin to Lot's wife, where you turn into a pillar of salt and you freeze yourself in that place, in that time, because you look backwards. And for most people who suffer from depression, a lot of their depression is not by virtue of their current suffering. It's only by virtue of the fact that they keep looking backwards. They keep looking back to the past. They keep looking to the past and saying, well, this is what I know, this is how I feel, this is what I'm comfortable with. And therefore they become a pillar of salt, and therefore they are preserved in that state of pain. And so in today's session, as I bring this week to a close, the thing I want to encourage you to think about is, if you go to the NHS's website and you see what they write about depression, There's something that is consistent. There's a best fit line across all people who suffer depression. And that is the word feelings. How I feel. It's always how they feel. And most people never talk about what they think. And the question is why? If we have this intellectual faculties, but we don't know how it functions and how to use them, it would be the same as having a really sophisticated car. But you don't understand how the key works, and it's so modern that you don't realize you have to press that button. You don't have to put the key in, and you can't see where to stick the key inside. And you don't realize all you have is press that button, you already have the keys. And so people are stuck. They've got this car, it's sat on their driveway, they can't drive it. It can do maybe not to 80 in perhaps 4 or 5 seconds. It's very attractive, it's very comfortable, but they cannot go from point A to point B because they don't understand the rules of the game and the tools of the trade and how they work. They haven't read the manual. They haven't looked at the manual, and they're too lazy to look at the manual. They would rather complain about how the manufacturers who designed the car are no good because the car wouldn't start, without realizing, no, it's not the car that is the issue. It's your ignorance. Your ignorance is something you should be ashamed of. Your ignorance is what's leading to your worry and doubt, which is converting and transferring into fear, and that fear creates anxiety in you, and your anxiety causes you to feel depressed because you suppress your anxiety, and over time, it starts to lead to you actually slowing down and decelerating in life, and death and destruction is not far away. For many people, we don't kill ourselves. We don't do it immediately. We do it over time. We allow ourselves to suffer. We tiptoe to death despite being almost dead. And we just prolong the process. For some people, we take the easier pathway. And all of that is unnecessary. All it requires is simply saying, I'm going to try something new. What a wonderful thing to wake up in the morning and say, well, I'd like to write a new script. I think I can change myself because I can change my life. And just having that hope and that desire, that triggering mechanism of desire, that possibility that exists in you and me, that comes from within and around, that allows you to carry the burden of life without fear, without worry or concern, and journey towards your goal and destination. I can give you knowledge, but I cannot give you desire. And so as we move into next week, and as we talk about the other parts of overcoming depression, and as I start to move towards the importance of beliefs, limiting beliefs and empowering beliefs, and as I move into other things such as, self-image re-engineering, it's important to understand that absent desire, you will not change. You will be stuck in the past. You will become a pillar of salt, stuck with your past and suffering in perpetuity until there is a change. And that change will not come from without. It would have to come from within. You are the master of your life. The destiny ahead of you can be chosen, it can be set, it can be changed. But you must look to yourself for your salvation. Salvation does not come from the east or the west. You must choose your own salvation. Now, I hope today's session has been useful.